Ever catch yourself like daydreaming about just opening your bank account one day and bam, there's just money in there, like
Right.
without having to actually, work for it.
Yeah, the dream. Passive income, we've all heard about it, but how do you actually make it happen?
Right. And that's what we're diving into today. There's this blog post we found, and it's all about turning your, creative side or maybe even your AI skills into cold, hard cash.
It sounds kind of crazy, but we're talking about Adobe Stock. That
Yeah.
huge library of images and graphics and everything designers use. Turns out you can potentially make money by uploading your own visuals.
Okay, wait, back up. So like anyone can just upload images to Adobe Stock and get paid. How does that even work?
Well, it's not quite anyone, but it's true that Adobe Stock is a platform where if you have an eye for creating eye-catching images, there's definitely potential to earn.
And this blog post we're looking at, it's saying you can do this even if you're not like a Photoshop guru. They're talking about AI-generated images, which is pretty wild.
It is pretty wild, right? It's like this whole new world of possibilities opening up. And the best part is, the article claims that the entry point is surprisingly low.
Like how low are we talking?
We're talking potentially free in some cases. There are a bunch of AI image generators out there, and some of them are totally free to use.
Oh, wow. So you could theoretically start creating and uploading images without spending a dime. That's pretty amazing. But okay, I have to ask, like, what's the catch? If it's this easy, wouldn't everyone be doing it?
Well, it's not that easy. You're right. There's a bit more to it than just uploading any old image.
Okay, so what's the secret sauce? What makes an image actually, like, sellable on Adobe Stock?
Remember how I mentioned eye-catching images earlier? That's key. Adobe Stock caters to a pretty specific audience: designers, businesses, people who need high-quality visuals. Those images have got to be top-notch.
So you can't just upload, like, a blurry picture of your cat and expect to get rich. Although I guess some cats are pretty photogenic.
Maybe some cats, but you get the idea. Quality is key. And that's where choosing the right AI image generator comes in.
Right, because some of those AI tools are definitely better than others. The blog post actually mentioned that they recommend, like, the paid tools over the free ones. Why is that?
It's kind of like anything else, you get what you pay for. The paid AI tools often come with more features, more customization options, and usually the output, the images themselves, are just higher quality.
So it's worth investing a little bit up front to potentially get better results down the line.
Exactly. Think of it as an investment in your future passive income. But, okay, let's say you've found your perfect AI image generator, you're whipping up some amazing visuals. What happens next? How do you actually get those images seen by potential buyers on Adobe Stock?
Yeah, because I imagine it's probably pretty crowded over there. Like, how do you make your images stand out from the millions of others?
Ah, the million-dollar question, and it's a good one. That's where keywords come in, those little tags you attach to your images so people can actually find them.
Okay, so keywords are basically like what people type into the search bar when they're looking for something specific.
Yeah, got it. It's all about making it easy for people to find exactly what they're looking for. So if someone's creating a website about travel and they need a picture of a beach, they're probably not just typing in beach.
They're getting more specific, right? Like tropical beach or sunset over the ocean or something like that.
Exactly. Those more specific multi-word phrases are what we call long-tail keywords, and they can make a huge difference in getting your images seen by the right people. The article didn't specifically mention them, but it's a little insider tip for you.
Oh, I love insider tips.
Yeah.
So it's not just about using any old keywords, it's about choosing those super specific ones that really capture the essence of your image.
Precisely. And that takes a little bit of research and strategy, but it can pay off big time. You want to put yourself in the shoes of the buyer and think about what they might be searching for.
That's a really good point. Okay, so we've got our AI-generated images, we've tagged them with super specific keywords. We're good to go, right?
Almost.
Oh.
There's one more crucial thing to consider: image quality. And I don't just mean making sure it's not blurry.
Oh, right, there's all those technical details like image resolution and stuff like that, right?
You got it. Things like image resolution, file format, those all impact the quality and usability of your images. And Adobe Stock has specific requirements. For instance, did you know they require a minimum resolution of 4 megapixels for photos?
Really? See, that's the kind of stuff I wouldn't even think about. Good thing we're doing this deep dive.
That's what we're here for, to uncover all those little details that can make a big difference. You want to set yourself up for success, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so assuming we've got all that cover the high-quality images, the strategic keywords, now comes the part I'm most curious about: the money. How much can you actually earn from selling AI-generated images on Adobe Stock? The article mentioned a range, right?
They did. They said you could potentially make anywhere from like 23 cents to $1.65 per download.
So download. So every time someone downloads my image, I get a cut of that.
Exactly. It's like micropayments for your creativity.
Okay, that makes sense. But like 23 cents to $1.65, that's a pretty big range. What determines how much you actually earn per download?
Well, there are a few factors at play. One is the type of license the buyer purchases. A standard license usually gets you the lower end of that range, while an extended license could earn you significantly more.
Oh, interesting. What's an extended license?
It basically gives the buyer more rights to use your image, like they could use it in a bigger project or for a longer period of time, things like that. And because those licenses are more valuable to the buyer, you get a larger cut.
That makes sense. So there's potential to earn more than just those base rates if your image gets chosen for something big.
Exactly. But there's even more to it than just the per download earnings.
Oh, there's more. This just keeps getting better and better.
Right. The article also mentioned that Adobe Stock has this cool rewards program where you can actually earn free stuff just for uploading and selling your images.
Free stuff? Like what? Tell me more.
So apparently, once you hit a certain number of downloads, you can earn things like free Adobe software, like Photoshop or Illustrator, those programs that usually cost a fortune.
No way. That's amazing. So not only could you be earning passive income from your AI art, but you could also be getting free professional-grade software to level up your skills even further. That's insane.
It's a pretty sweet deal, and it shows how committed Adobe is to supporting its contributors. They want you to succeed, which is a good sign.
Okay, I'm sold. Sign me up. But before I quit my day job and invest in a top-of-the-line AI art generator, let's talk about the not-so-fun stuff, taxes. Because I have a feeling that earning money online, especially through international platforms like Adobe Stock, probably comes with some tax implications.
You are so right, and you definitely don't want to get caught off guard come tax season.
Exactly. So what do we need to know about the tax side of things? Did the article mention anything about that?
It did, actually, and it emphasized how important it is to actually familiarize yourself with the tax regulations, both in your own country and where Adobe Stock is based, which I believe is the United States.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because different countries have different rules, and you don't want to accidentally mess anything up.
Exactly. And they specifically mentioned this tax form called the W-8-BEN form, which is apparently super important for anyone who's not a U.S. resident but is earning income from a U.S.-based company like Adobe.
Okay, so it's basically a way to make sure you're not getting double taxed by both countries.
Exactly. And while dealing with tax forms might not be the most exciting part of this whole endeavor, it's definitely crucial to stay on top of things. You want to keep as much of your hard-earned passive income as possible, right?
Absolutely. Okay, this is all incredibly helpful. We've covered so much ground already, from the basics of Adobe Stock and AI image generation to strategic keywords, those cool rewards programs, and even the all-important tax considerations.
And believe it or not, we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore when it comes to leveraging AI art for passive income, and we'll be diving into all that and more right after the break.
Don't go anywhere. All right, so we've laid the groundwork. We know what Adobe Stock is, we've got the AI tools, and we're strategically tagging our masterpieces. But with potentially millions of images on Adobe Stock, how do we make ours stand out? It's like trying to get your star seen in the Milky Way.
That's where understanding your niche comes into play. This isn't just about creating beautiful images, it's about creating the right beautiful images for a specific audience. The blog post hinted at this, but let's explore it further.
So instead of being a jack of all trades, I should find my own little corner of the Adobe Stock universe.
Exactly. What are you passionate about? What kind of images do you excel at creating with AI? Maybe you have a knack for whimsical characters, or perhaps your strength lies in crafting photorealistic landscapes. Find that sweet spot where your interests and the market's demands intersect.
So let's say my AI art superpower is creating these incredibly intricate, almost otherworldly patterns. Is there even a market for that kind of thing?
Absolutely. Designers are always on the lookout for unique and eye-catching patterns for everything from website backgrounds to textile designs. And this is where AI art really shines. Imagine trying to create those complex patterns by hand. It would be incredibly time-consuming. But with AI, you can generate variations and experiment with different styles effortlessly.
It's like having an army of digital artists at your fingertips. So I found my niche, I'm churning out these amazing AI-generated patterns, but then it hits me. What if everyone else is catching on to this whole AI art thing? What if the market gets flooded?
That's a valid concern. The landscape of AI art is constantly evolving, which is both exciting and a little daunting. But remember, the tools are constantly improving, offering new possibilities for those willing to experiment. The key is to stay curious and never stop learning.
So how do I stay ahead of the curve? Any tips for someone who might not be, shall we say, the most tech-savvy individual?
It's simpler than you might think. Start by immersing yourself in the AI art community. There are countless online forums, tutorials, even social media groups dedicated to this very topic.
So it's about tapping into that collective knowledge and passion. I like it.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment with new AI tools and techniques as they emerge. Many offer free trials or basic versions, allowing you to dip your toes in without breaking the bank. Remember, even seasoned AI artists were once beginners.
That's reassuring. So it's not just about mastering one specific AI tool. It's about being adaptable and willing to learn new tricks of the trade as the technology advances.
Exactly. And as you become more comfortable with these tools, you'll start to develop your own unique style and workflow, which is invaluable in a crowded marketplace. Think of those AI artists whose work you instantly recognize. That's the goal.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like anything else in life. The more you practice and experiment, the more confident and skilled you become. But let's get back to the money side of things for a moment. The article mentioned those per download earnings, but is that really how it works? Do I just get a check every time someone downloads one of my AI masterpieces?
Not quite. Remember that 45-day waiting period the article mentioned? It usually takes some time for those earnings to accrue, and then there's the matter of actually getting paid.
Right, because Adobe Stock isn't just going to send me a wad of cash in the mail. So how does it work?
Most stock photo platforms, including Adobe Stock, have specific payout thresholds and payment methods. For example, the article mentioned that Adobe Stock has a minimum payout of $25, and you can choose to receive your earnings through various methods like PayPal or Skrill once you've hit that amount.
That's good to know. It's all starting to feel a lot more tangible now. But let's say things are going well. My AI art is flying off the virtual shelves. Are there any other income streams I should be aware of?
That's thinking like a true entrepreneur. And yes, while per download earnings are the bread and butter of stock photography, the article hinted at another potentially lucrative avenue: extended licenses.
Okay, break that down for me. What's an extended license?
Imagine your stunning AI-generated image of a futuristic cityscape catches the eye of a major tech company. They love it so much that they want to use it not just on their website, but also on billboards, bus ads, maybe even a Super Bowl commercial.
Wow, okay. Now we're talking about some serious exposure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where those extended licenses come in, right? They're willing to shell out the big bucks if it means they can plaster my AI art on a billboard. Pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. And yeah, extended licenses are basically the premium version of a download. They give the buyer like broader usage rights. So instead of just using your image on a website or in a brochure, they could use it for like merchandise or advertising campaigns or even in movies and TV shows potentially. The possibilities are kind of endless.
Okay, that does sound pretty lucrative. But like, realistically, how often does that actually happen? Is this something I can actually bank on? Or is it more like winning the lottery?
Well, it's definitely less common than a standard download, for sure. But hey, you never know. The beauty of passive income is that you're constantly putting your work out there, and you never know who might stumble across it and see its value.
That's true. It's kind of like the more seeds you plant, the better your chances of something amazing growing. But okay, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about, like, staying ahead of the curve in the AI art world.
Right, because this whole AI thing is moving so fast, it can be hard to keep up. What works today might be old news tomorrow, right?
Exactly. And like, as someone who's still kind of new to this whole AI art scene, I'm wondering, like, where do I even start? How do I make sure my skills and my portfolio stay relevant?
Well, remember that link the article mentioned, the one about how to generate AI images?
Yeah, I remember.
That's actually a really great place to start. It might seem basic, but trust me, it's your gateway to a whole new world of creative possibilities.
Okay, so that's the technical side of things. But what about the, like, artistic side? Because even though we're using AI, it's still about creating something visually appealing, right?
Absolutely. And that's where your own creativity and your own unique perspective come in. AI is a tool, a really powerful tool, but ultimately, you're the artist, you know?
So it's not just about, like, plugging in a prompt and hoping for the best.
No, not at all. It's about experimenting, playing around with different AI tools and techniques, different prompts, different styles. Don't be afraid to, like, break the rules and see what happens.
I like that. It's like those happy accidents in the lab that lead to like groundbreaking discoveries. But I gotta say, all this talk about experimentation and like constantly learning new things, it's exciting, but it's also a little overwhelming. Any tips for staying organized and focused amidst all the chaos?
That's a great question, and it brings up a super important point that I think a lot of people overlook when they're first starting out with AI art. You got to treat your Adobe Stock portfolio like an actual portfolio.
What do you mean? Like, don't just upload everything I create. Be more selective.
Exactly. Curate your collection. Showcase your best work, the images that really represent your style and your niche. And don't be afraid to retire images that aren't performing well or that like no longer align with your brand.
Okay, so it's kind of like Marie Kondoing my digital art collection.
Exactly. Only keep the images that spark joy and, of course, attract those lucrative downloads.
I love it. This has been incredibly eye-opening. We've covered so much ground, from the basics of Adobe Stock and AI image generation to like niche selection, those extended licenses, those cool rewards programs, even taxes. It's a lot to take in.
It is a lot, but honestly, this is just the beginning. The world of AI art is constantly evolving, so what we've talked about today is really just a starting point. There's a whole universe of possibilities out there just waiting to be discovered.
It's pretty exciting when you think about it. Who knows, maybe in a few years we'll be looking back at this conversation and laughing at how, like, basic it all seems now.
I know, right? It's like trying to predict the future, but that's what makes it so fun and so full of potential.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a good place to wrap things up for today. To everyone listening, if you're intrigued by the idea of like turning your artistic passion or even just your fascination with AI into a potential source of passive income, I highly encourage you to check out the blog posts we've been discussing and start experimenting. You never know what you might create.
You might just surprise yourself.
Exactly. And on that note, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Adobe Stock and AI art. Until next time.